Suri velo avlatabo. We'll go now to 31. Kol haneshama Alleluia, Alleluia. Kol haneshama Alleluia, Alleluia. Kol haneshama Baruch Adonai leolam, amen ve'amen. Baruch Adonai mitzion, shochen Yerushalayim, hallelujah. Baruch Adonai Elohim, Elohei Yisrael, oseh niflaot levado. Ubaruch Shem kevodo leolam, v'imalech kevodo et kol haaretz. Amen ve'amen. Let's continue together, page 241, the center of the page. Shochenad marom vekadosh shemo vechatuv rananu tzadikim b'Adonai la'yesharim navat tehila v'fi sharim titromam ובדברי צדיקים תתברך, ובלשון החסידים תתקדש, ובקרב קדושים תתהלל, ובמקהלות רבבות, עמך בית ישראל, בריני בשוכם. כל דור ודור, להודות, להלל, לשבח, לפאר, לרומם, להדר, לברך, להלל, לקלס, על כל דברי שירות ותשבחות דוד בן ישי, עבדך משיחך, ישתבח שמך, לעד מלכנו. שיר ושחר וזמרה, קדושה ומלכות, ברכות והודאות, מעתה ועד עולם, ברוך אתה אדוני, אל מלך גדול בתשבחות, אל ההודאות אדוני נפלאות, הבוחר בשירי זמרה, מלך אל חיי העולמים. 245. יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה, בעלמא דברה חירותי וימליך מלכותי, בחיי חון וביומי חון, ובחיי דחו בית ישראל, בגלה ובזמן קריב אמרו אמן.
אמן.
יהי שמי רבה מבורך, לעולם ולעולמי עלמיא, יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא. ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי דקודשה בריחו לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה דמירן בעלמא ואמרו אמן.
Amen.
Invite us all now to stand together. Just take a moment to find our feet and feel our full height. And in that height, feel the sense of higher gratitude that we open ourselves to on Shabbat. Page 247. Baruch hu et Adonai hamevorach. Baruch Adonai hamevorach leolam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam yotzer or uvorech hoshech oseh shalom uvorech et hakol. We can take our seats. Look with me, please, the page 249, just below the line. A teaching from Rabbi Arthur Green to help open this beautiful creation liturgy for us. He's here explaining about this phrase, hapoteach bechol yom. God is the one who opens every day, chalonei rakia. Bechol yom dalatei sha'arei mizrach, uvokea chalonei rakia. The one who opens the gateways to the east and bursts open the windows of the expanse of heaven, chalonei rakia. He says, this image of a God who opens the doorway of the east and bursts through the heavenly windows so that light might shine into our world is one of our tradition's most powerful. Since ancient times, light has been a metaphor for divinity. Light is the most subtle of substances. It bathes us in its glow and nourishes our existence in ways we can hardly articulate. God is the light source toward which we humans stretch in constant reach. We are sustained, nourished, animated by that light. Let's continue through these passages in Hebrew, page 249. Hakol yoducha v'kol yeshabechucha v'kol yomruin kadosh kadonai v'kol yorumamucha sela yotzer hakol ha'el hapoteach b'chol yom delatot sharei mizrach uvokeach chalonei rakia motzichama mimkomam. And the last lines, Hameir la'aretz ve'ladarim aleha berachamim uvetuvo mechadesh b'chol yom tamid ma'aseh v'reshit. Next page, 52-51. Hamelech hamarom levado me'az hameshubach u'mefar. Picking up in the middle, ein kerkecha ve'en zulatecha efes piltecha u'mido melach. אין כרכך אדוני אלוהינו בעולם הזה, ואין זולתך מלכנו לחיי העולם הבא. אפס פלטך גואלנו לימות המשיח, ואין דומה לך מושיענו לחיי עולמים. 253 or 255, join in please. אדון על כל המעשים, ברוך ומבורך בפי כל נשמה, גודלו בטובו מלא עולם.
הקודש ונדר וכבוד על המרכבה זכות ומישור לפני כיסו חסד ורחמים לפני כבודו טובים מאוד עוד שברא אלוהינו יצרה בדעת בבינה ובחסקל כוח וגבורה נתן בהם להיות מושלים בקרב תבל מלאים זיו ומפיקים נוגה מעזיבם בכל העולם שמחים בצאתם וששים בבואם עושים בהם הרצון קונם דרך אבות נותנים לשמו צולה ורינה לזכר מלכותו קרא לשמש ויזרח אור והכין צורת הלבנה שבע נותנים לו כל צבע מרום תפארת וגדולה שרפים ואופנים שרפים וחיות הקודש
As we recognize that inner light, that is the echo of the outer light. Let's continue with the final verse of the creation celebration, page 269. אור חדש על ציון תאיר, ונזכה כולנו במהרה לאורו. ברוך אתה אדוני, יוצר המאורות. With this bracha, this last blessing of the creation liturgy, we're saying for ourselves that light has now been summoned. As I just had this feeling this morning singing this El Adon with all of you. We have the phrase in El Adon about Noga, the dawn. It's a poetic word, even in English, little word Noga, dawn. What happens when the sun begins to rise? And I think we can't miss the cue here, which is that the Siddur is saying not only to notice the sunrise outside, which we certainly should try to do if we can pay attention, but also to be aware of the internal sunrise that we want to summon for ourselves, especially important to summon for ourselves when we're busy reading the newspaper all week and feeling, I think for a lot of us, a lot of darkness, a lot of heaviness. And we have to, in our prayers, come to bring the light into ourselves as we recognize the light around us. Take that, all of that now into the morning Shema, page 275.
Ve'havihenu Leshalom me'arba kanfot haaretz v'tolichenu kom hamiut le'artzenu ki el poel yeshuot ata v'kerabtanu l'shimcha hagadol Sehela be'emet lehodor lecha uyachedcha be'ahava Baruch atah Adonai ohev amo Yisrael Shema Yisrael השם גבוה מלכותו לעולם ועד. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם, בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם להיות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך. Silently select a section here. ויאמר אדוני אל משה לאמור, דבר אל בני ישראל ואמרת עליהם, ועשו להם ציצית על כנפי בגדיהם ודורותם, ונתנו על ציצית הכנף פתיל תכלת, והיה לכם לציצית, וראיתם אותו, וזכרתם את כל מצוות אדוני ועשיתם אותם. ולא תטורו אחרי לבבכם ואחרי עיניכם אשר אתם זונים אחריהם, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם, אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם אלוהים, אני אדוני אלוהיכם, Adonai Elohechem, Amen.
Turn ahead now to page 291 to lead us from the Song of Freedom into the Amidah. Ask you, Beth, if you'll take over here.
Tilot leil elyon baruch hu umvorach Moshe uMiriam uvnei Yisrael lecha nishira besimcha rabba ve'amru chulam mi chamocha be'elim Adonai mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh Nora tilot osef eleh Shira chadasha shibechu geulim L'shimcha al sfat hayam Yachad kulam hodu v'himlichu ve'ameru Adonai imloch leolam va'ed Tzur Yisrael Kuma be'ezrat Yisrael Ufdechenu mecha Yehuda ve'Yisrael Go aleinu Adonai Tzivaot Shemo Kedosh Yisrael Baruch atah Adonai Gal Yisrael. Page 295. Adonai sifatai tiftach ufi agit tehilatecha. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu Elohei Abraham, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Yitzhak, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Rachel, ve'Elohei Leah. Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, גומל חסדים טובים, וקונה הכל, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואמות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה. מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם ועזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, רב להושיע, מוריד הצל. מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיי כל חי ברחמים רבים, צומח נופלים ורופא חולים, ומהתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר, לשני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות, ומי דומה לך, מלך ממית ומחיה, ומצמיח ישועה. ונאמן אתה להחיות כל חי, ברוך אתה אדוני, מחיי כל חי. Page 303. נקדש את שמך בעולם, כשם שמקדישים אותו בשמי מרום. ככתוב על יד נביאך, וכרזה אל זה ואמר, קדוש, 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 אדוני צבאות, מלוכו הארץ כבודו. אז בקור רעש גדול, אדיר וחזק משמיעים קול, מתנסים לעומת שרפים, לעומתם ברוך יאמרו, ברוך כבוד אדוני ממקומו. ממקומך מלכנו תופיע, ותמלוך עלינו כמחכים אנחנו לך. מתי תמלוך בציון, בקרוב בימינו לעולם ועד תשכון. תתגדל ותתקדש בתוך ירושלים עירך. לדור ודור, לדור ודור, לנצח נצחים. ועינינו תראנה מלכותך, כדבר האמור בשירי עוזך. ימלוך אדוני לעולם, אלוהיך ציון לדור ודור, הללויה. לדור ודור נגיד גדלך, ולנצח נצחים קדושתך נקדיש. בשבחך אלוהינו מפינו לא ימוש לעולם ועד, כי אל מלך גדול וקדוש אתה, ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש. We continue with the Amidah, with the words on the page and in our hearts.
Oh, say shalom, shalom, bimromav. Oh, say shalom, shalom, bimromav. Uyaseh shalom, shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, v'imru amen. Before we close this part of our morning service, ask us to turn to the back of the Siddur to page 740 to bring in a bit of modern liturgy, words from the Israeli poet Leah Goldberg. And you can see in these verses that we've read together and sung together many times, which we'll share again this morning, her wish that the liturgy, the rituals, the practice of our tradition be one that help us never to feel that it's become rote, but that there's always a new question, a new insight, a new need that gets addressed in the course of our spiritual practices. So I'd like to, Jeff and I would like to sing this with you together. It may be starting to be familiar because we've sung it a little bit. So if you start to feel like you know it, join in. The idea is to sing together. We say, Lamdeni Elohai. Just say that with me. Lamdeni Elohai. Teach me, my God. Barech vehit palel. Barech vehit palel. Teach me how to pray.
Lamdeni Elohai barech v'hitpalel al soda lekamel al noga pri bashel al hachirut azod lirot lachush linshon לדעת לייחל להיקשר למדני אלוהי ברך להתפלל על סודה לקמל על נוגה פרי בשל על החירות הזאת לראות לחוש לנשום לדעת לייחל להיקשר למד את שפתותיי ברכה ושיר הלל, התחדש זמנך עם בוקר ועם ליל, לבל יהיה יומי היום כתמול שלשום. למד את שפתותיי ברכה ושיר הלל, והתחדש זמנך עם בוקר ועם ליל, לבל יהיה עלי יומי הגה.
למדני אלוהי ברך והתפלל, הסודה לקמל על נוגה פרי בשל, על החירות הזאת לראות לחוש לנשום, לדעת לייחל להיקשר.
למד את שפתותיי ברכה ושיר הלל, והתחדש זמנך עם בוקר ועם ליל, לבל יהיה יומי היום כתמול שלשום. למד את שפתותיי ברכה ושיר הלל, והתחדש זמנך עם בוקר ועם ליל, לבל יהיה עלי יומי לבל יהיה עלי יומי הגה.
Turn with me back in the Siddur to the last lines of the full Kaddish in English, page 380. Join with me, please, just to say these final verses of the final Kaddish of the morning prayers. May the prayer and supplication of the whole house of Israel be acceptable to their Creator in the heavens. And we say, may heaven grant a universal peace and life for us and for all Israel. And we say, may the one who creates harmony above make peace for us and for all Israel and for all who dwell on earth. And we say, Amen. Make our turn now to the Torah service. I'm trying to keep my eye, like a little piece of my eyeball on the clock, only because I'm telling you now, whoever the tots are that are here this morning with their own tot congregation with Miss Ellie are planning to join us about 11:15. So whatever we're doing at 11:15, we're busy with tots. Whoever they are, we're going to be happy to see them. So I'm just telling you now, we could be in the middle of some deep thing, but we're just going to stop and welcome them. It's a pleasure to welcome Stacy Foyer and Michael Ostheimer to the Bima for the honor of opening the Ark, and we'll continue now together, page 383. So just come here. אין כמוך ואלוהים אדוני ואין כמעשיך מלכותך מלכות כל עולמים וממשלתך בכל דור ודור. אדוני מלך, אדוני מלך, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. אדוני עוז לעמו ייתן, אדוני יברך את עמו בשלום. אב הרחמים היטיבה ברצונך את ציון. תבנה חומות ירושלים, תבנה חומות ירושלים.
ירושלים, כי בך לבד בטחנו, מלך רם ונישא, אדון עולמים. ויהי בנשרון, ויאמר משה, קומה אדוני, ויפוצו אויביך, וינוסו משנאיך מפניך, כי מציון תצא תורה. כי מציון תצא תורה, ודבר אדוני מירושלים. ברוך שנתן תורה, תורה, ברוך שנתן תורה, תורה, לעמו ישראל בקדושתו. 387. בענר החץ ולשמי קדישה, קדישה יקירה, אנא אמרת. בענר החץ ולשמי קדישה, קדישה יקירה, אנא אמרתו שפכן, יהי רבה קודמך, תפתח ליבי באורייתא, ותשלים משלים דליבי, וליבה דכל עמך ישראל, לטוב ולחיים ולשלום. Amen. Page 393, our leader first, and then we respond.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shemo.
Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shemo. Halil Adonai iti, v'niromim Hashemo yachdav. Lecha Adonai v'getula v'hagevura v'hatiferet v'hanetzach. Yisrael ve'oraita kusha v'chadu. Torah, Torah, hallelujah. Torah, ora, Torah, ora, hallelujah.
Shakoach to Stacy and Michael. And I don't know if everyone caught the lovely thing that just happened here as Stacy was getting ready to carry the Torah in to the community. Her partner, Michael, fitted the mask on for her. I just hope that we can all help each other that way, whether we're married to each other or not. So I went to grab my mask because I forgot it behind the bima. So this morning, this week, we're reading from Parshat Balak, the part of the Torah that often feels to us like a fairy tale, where donkeys can speak and kings and sorcerers have this sort of iconic fairy tale-like quality to them. The evil King Balak and the etc. I have some things I'd like to talk with you about that that bridge between the Torah portion and the Haftarah this morning. So I'd rather read the bit of Torah that we have to read together and then take some time to talk together between the Torah and the Haftarah, and then look at the beautiful Haftarah that's before us today. And once again, yeah, I think we'll be fine on time, but just if we see the next generation starting to arrive, we will give them our full welcome and attention. They might even be willing to share a song with us. We'll see how that goes. Now, this morning we'll have 3 Torah readings, and Stu Simon will be our first reader. I want to ask if I could have a volunteer to come up and assist me with gabaying and also with tracking in the Torah, because I'll be reading some from the Chumash this morning. Anyone? Gil, if you would, that would be wonderful. Thank you. So let's find our way to the beginning reading, which will be Numbers chapter 23, beginning with verse 1. And you can find that if you're in the older version of the Plaut Chumash, it'll be page 1176. Excuse me, or the newer one, page 1053. So again, Numbers 23, beginning with verse 1. And here, let me take these things out of the way.
ויעזור ויגן ויושיע לכל החוסים בו ונאמר אמן. הכל הבו גודל אלוהינו תנו כבוד לתורה. יעמוד מגן דרור בן אברהם ושרה לעלייה הראשונה. ברוך שנתן תורה לעמו ישראל בקדושתו. ואתם הדבקים באדוני אלוהיכם חיים כולכם היום.
So first is still, see where you're beginning, right here.
Baruch Adonai Hamavarach.
Baruch Adonai Baruch Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamavarach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Asher krivanu lavodato. V'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai Notein HaTorah.
Amen.
Amen. Vayomer Belam El Balak B'nei Bazeh Shivat Mizbachot V'chechen Li Bazeh Shiva Perim V'Shiva Elim V'yas Balak Asher Diber Belam V'yal Balak Uvilam Harvayil B'mizbeach V'yomer Bilam V'balak Chityatzeh Palalotecha V'yalcha Ulai Yikarei Adonai V'karati Udvar Mayireni V'hagidadati lach Vayelech Shfi Vayelech Shefi V'ikar Elohim El Bilam Vayomer Elav Et Shivat HaMizbachot Et HaMizbach Et Shivat HaMizbachot Aruchati Va'al Par Va'ayel Bamizbeach Vayasem Adonai Devar Bepi Bilam Vayomer Shuvel Balak Bechol Tidaber.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torat emet v'kahi olam nata b'tokenu. Baruch atah Adonai notein haTorah.
Amen. Yesher koach to our reader and to our honoree. And I think, Luther, I think you are not here for any particular reason,
Not really.
just because you're,
Just because I walked in the
But-
door first.
yes, which is always a good thing. But it feels fitting to say in a parasha that's filled with poetry that our poet laureate is here on the bima with us. And we are looking forward to continuing to enjoy the fruits of all of your wonderful labors. Okay, continuing now with our second aliyah. Ya'amod Yaakov ben Malka la'aliyah hashniya. And so Gil, I'm going to ask you to track here. And actually, may I take the tikkun? So now continuing with chapter 23, verse 6.
Baruchu et Adonai Hambarach.
Baruch Adonai Hamorach le'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hambarach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kirvanu la'avodato v'natan lanu et torato. Baruch atah Adonai notein haTorah.
Amen. Amen. Vayashov elav. You see where we are again? V'hinei nitzav al olatohu v'chosarei Moav. Vayisam shalo vayomar min aram. Yancheni Balak melech Moav meharei kedem. Lecha ad Yaakov. Ulecha zo'ama Yisrael. Ma'ekov lo koba'el. Uma'ezom lo za'am Adonai. Ki merosh tzurim erenu migvaot ashurenu. Henam levadad yishkon. Uvagoyim lo yitchashav. Mi manafar Yaakov umispar et rova Yisrael. Tamot nafshi mot yesharim. Uti achriti kamo.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torat emet v'chayei olam nata b'tokenu. Baruch atah Adonai notein haTorah.
Amen. Wonderful to have you here, Ted, and great to see you and Isabel. And Yasher Koach.
Thank you.
Anything you want to share?
I think we must have been the second people in after Luther
Yeah.
because,
Early birds catch the worm.
right.
And get the Aliyah.
And get the other. So we'll pause here now for our prayer for healing.
So if there are people who you're holding in your heart, if you'd like to stand and we'll start over here, Martha, and you can share them.
March Olivet, Jane Gisco, Mark
So we're going to keep all of those individuals in our heart, and then also, yeah, the world needs our prayers, and we all need our prayers for one another to hold a place of healing. Mishabera Avotenu Limotenu Uyevarech et HaCholim Uyevarech et HaCholot Beyanik Lahem Orech Ruach Ometz Lev Urefuah Shlema Mishaberach Avotenu V'imotenu Hu Yivarech et HaCholim Hu Yivarech et HaCholot Ve'yanik Lahem Orech Ruach Ometz Lev Urefuah Shlema. May the one who blessed all those who came before give patience and courage to us now. Help us find the strength to nurture and to bring full healing. Amen. Mishaberach Avotenu V'imotenu Uyevarech et HaCholim Uyevarech et HaCholot Ve'yanik Lahem Orech Ruach Ometz Lev Urefuah Shlema. Refuah Shlema.
Okay, so I think actually we need an aliyah. I didn't realize in my notes, just Rabbi George, thank you. We'll move now to the Maftir Aliyah, the final reading for the parasha. We're moving to Numbers 25 now, verses 7 through 9. And I will ask Rabbi George to track in the scroll.
Okay.
And Rabbi George, give me one moment and we'll call you up
You're on
properly.
time.
One second.
Pinchas. Here, Vayar Pinchas.
Baruchu et Adonai Hamivorach.
Baruch Adonai Hamorach Leolam Vaed.
Baruch Adonai Hamivorach Leolam Vaed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kevanu lavodato v'natan lanu et torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Will you follow there in the scroll? Amen. Vayar Pinchas ben Elazar ben Aharon HaKohen vayakom mitoch העדה ויקח רומח בידו ויבוא אחר איש ישראל אל הקובה וידקור את שניהם את איש ישראל ואת איש האישה אל קובתה ותעצר המגפה מעל בני ישראל ויהיו המתים במגפה 24. אמן.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torat emet v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Yishar koach. And Rabbi George, I'd like to we didn't get the moment to call you up properly by name. I'd like to say a Misha Berach for you so we can recognize this aliyah, even if it's just a regular, everyday kind of aliyah.
I'm afraid it is not.
You're afraid it is not? Do you want to say something?
Well, we move tomorrow. We move. And that's hard. Enough.
So then it's very fitting to offer a Misha Berach. This one is for you, but we'll say by extension, it's also for Sue.
Absolutely.
For a smooth and peaceful transition to a new home. After many years of many wonderful things in your current home, we wish for the same for you in this new chapter.
Baruch Shemo.
And for us to stay in close touch as you make this transition and for you to both remain in good health. Misha Berach Avotenu Avraham Yitzchak veYaakov Imotenu Sarah Rivka Rachel veLeah Hu Yivarech et Harav Gershon ben Yitzchak veDvorah She'ala lichvod hamakom lichvod haTorah velichvod haShabbat HaKadosh Baruch Hu Yichayehu v'Yishmerehu mikol tzara v'tzuka mikol nega u'machala וישלח ברכה והצלחה בכל מעשה ידיו ויברכהו עם כל ישראל אחיו ואחיותיו ונאמר אמן. Join me please to say Chazak ve'amatz. Chazak ve'amatz, strength and courage as you take this very big step. And again, may it be only in health and in fruitfulness and prosperity and hopefully some joy. Ask us to rise now to lift the Torah. We'll call forward Louis Tenenbaum and Marcia Teichman. וזאת התורה אשר שם משה לפני בני ישראל על פי אדוני ביד משה. עץ חיים היא למחזיקים בה ותומכיה מאושר. עץ חיים היא למחזיקים בה ותומכיה Let it go down and go sit down, or it's up here? I'd like to start here with a public service announcement to ask for those of you in the room who are comfortable Torah reading, Ayeka, I would say, quoting from Genesis, with no judgment or scolding in my voice, but just a plea for participation. It's really, really important for us to have readers who can read from the scroll, and I'm always happy to do it as much as possible, but there's so many in this community who know how and who are able, and so we really do need you to come forward and read. And if you are someone who's interested in reading and would like a refresher or I don't know, any kind of support to get up to speed, I and several others, I'll call out Marcia Teichman in particular, but several others in our community are here to help you to get up to speed. Oh, and with enormous thanks to Gil Rosen, who has who's been our steady guide along the way, keeping our readings in line and keeping our opportunities for reading flowing. Thank you, Gil. I want to talk with you a little bit about this parasha and its connection to the Haftarah. So just a few thoughts here, and then I'd like to turn to the Haftarah and chant through it this morning. We've had many conversations in our community about the Haftarot, about kind of how we engage with them, the prophetic readings in our services, sometimes choosing to put them on pause. And at least for me, I always feel ambivalent about doing that. So I feel especially grateful this morning to have a chance to look a little more at that Haftarah with you. But first, just think with me about this parasha that we've just read a little bit of just now. So I'm interested in the question of, just go with me here for a minute, literary voice and viewpoint. And what I mean by that is if you look at Parashat Balak in relationship to the other parashiot that are around it, it's as if the director has changed the camera on us here, because we're no longer inside the camp. We no longer are seeing what's really going on. We're looking at the children of Israel from outside, and the view seems remarkably different. So I wrote here in our Torah readings this week, reading the beloved story of Balak and Bilam, the misguided attempt to curse the children of Israel, the donkey who unfathomably represents wisdom and insight, and the angel who finally wakens Bilam up to the truth of God. In the course of all this, we hear the famous and beautiful affirmation that Bilam bestows on the children of Israel. Ma tovu ohalecha Yaakov, mishkanotecha Yisrael. That, as I think we all know, but in case you didn't, that part of our Siddur comes from this parasha and comes from the mouth of Bilam, acting in that moment as a true prophet, meaning he's speaking for God. He's giving forth the blessing that is pouring through him from God. So as I'm saying, it's a remarkably different point of view here than in the rest of Bamidbar. Think of the last few weeks, Shalach Lecha, Korach, tons of internal drama and strife, and actually, large portions of the community getting wiped out for their lack of confidence in God. It's not been a pretty picture. And then suddenly here we have Bilam unable to fulfill the job that he's been hired for, which is to curse Israel, which is what, excuse me, but that's what God's been doing the last few weeks. But Bilam is not able to, and as he says several times in this parasha, I can't say what God, and I can only say what God wants me to say. And what's coming out of my mouth is this blessing, Ma tovu ahalecha Yaakov. What a beautiful community, not just tov, but tovu, which translates oftentimes in the English as not just good, but somehow goodly. Like they're really something special here, these people.
So again, this idea of the shift in perspective, the shift in literary voice, and this notion that the blessing that's coming for the people is only coming from outside the community. I couldn't help but read this, and I guess I've read it this way before. It's sort of like the way we often look at others and assume everything's great in their life. That's only because we don't go home and do the laundry with them. I've had many times over the years, people say to me, you know, I'm the only one going through fill in the blank. I'm the only one struggling. I'm the only one working it out here. Everyone else seems to be doing great. It's not true. But from the outside, from a distance, things often look beautiful, even when they're not. And in fact, if you noticed, when we came to the maftir this morning, the last reading, boy, we're right back in it again. Quickly, the story of Balak and Bilam ends, the blessing comes, everything seems great, and then we're back. It's like the director has gone, okay, back to camera one, and we're back inside the camp of the children of Israel, and there's really, really difficult things are happening. Violence, more death and destruction, angry God. Yeah, it's all back to the original story. Bilam describes Israel knowing them only from far away. Look with me at chapter 23, beginning with verse 9. And hang on, I'll give you the page numbers also. Okay, thank you. So Stu, you're saying 1054 in the new? And or 1177 if you're in the older one. Right, okay. So we actually, we read this in the, I read this in the Torah reading, but I want to just look at it with you again, beginning with verse 9. Ki merosh tzurim erenu umigvaot ashurenu. He said, he's telling you where he's seeing them from. Bilam is gazing at them from the mountaintops. Well, if you're on the mountaintop, unless it's your hiking partner, which in this case it's not, he's looking at Israel from a great distance. They're far away. Hen am livadad yishkon. There is a people that dwells apart. Livadad yishkon. They're like singular. There's almost an echo here. I meant to look up in Esther. What is it? Haman says to there's a certain people, like they're a separate people. Here they're being framed in the positive for being unique, alone in their specialness. Uvagoyim lo yitchashav. The other nations of the world haven't, it says in the English, reckoned with them. Yitchashav, like they haven't thought about them, or thought about them sort of in the more active form. Going on with verse 10, Mima na afar Yaakov umispar et rova Yisrael. They're in fact, not only are they blessed in their sort of quality, but there are so many of them, you can't count them. Who can count them? They're like the dust, meaning you can't count the dust. It's so much, you lose your mind trying to count it. Tamot nafshi mot yesharim. Bilam now even goes on to say, I would rather die than have to live a different fate, have to take on a different destiny. Excuse me. And it's only after this that Bilam finally reaches the climax of his blessing, in which we hear that affirmation, Ma tovu ohalecha Yaakov, how good are the tents of Jacob, because that's all he can see are the tents. You may be familiar with the midrash that says the tent, the reason, why does he say ohalecha Yaakov, the tents of Jacob? Because according to the midrash, at least, the tents are positioned so that their doors are not looking at each other. In other words, they give each other a little bit of space, which is how a society works out well. We give each other a little bit of room. What's the English? Good fences make good neighbors. Okay. So even though we know that just recently these wandering Hebrews were the embodiment of distress, skepticism, internal strife, even to the point of driving God to decimate them, in Bilam's view, they are not only good, but goodly. And then we land back in the camp. So what I'd like to do here is now switch over to look with you at the prophet Micha, and see the connection between the words of Micha, and the words of the Torah here. So if you turn ahead to 1069 in the newer version, and hang on, I have it double paginated here. Or 1272 in the older. On the face of it, the reason that this Haftarah was chosen to accompany Parashat Balak is because Micah, the prophet, invokes the story of Balak. He quotes from it here, in chapter 6, verse 5, which will be on the next page, should be on the next page in your copy, page 1070 or 1274. Just to show you the kind of the literary connection here. Micah says, Ami zacharna maya atz Balak melech Moav. He says to his people, remember what the king Balak of Moab planned. Ume ana oto Bilam ben Beor, and how Bilam, the sorcerer, answered. And we know what the answer is to that. The sorcerer answered by saying something bad was planned, but something good came out of Bilam's mouth. And then we come to the end of the Haftarah. Look with me at the end of it. Verse 8. Probably the most famous passage from the prophet Micah. Higid lecha Adam ma tov. Rabbi Shai Held, who's written a fair bit on this, wants us first to notice that in Micah's formula, it's ma tov, not ma tovu. It's dialed down a little bit, and I'll come back to that in a second. Higid lecha Adam ma tov. You've been told what's good. Uma Adonai doresh mimcha. What does God want from you? What is God seeking from you? And here it is distilled into 3 little phrases. Ki'im asot mishpat, to do justice, ve'ahavat chesed, to love mercy, ve'hatznea lechet im Elohecha, and to walk humbly with your God, or as I often like to say, to walk humbly with your theology. Don't go around telling everybody that you know the truth. Be curious and say, this is what I think, what do you think? Kind of is a better posture. It seems to be what Micah is saying. So Shai Held wants us to read this. He suggests that we read this in a particular way, which is to say, if Bilam's blessing for Israel is sort of full-throated and without question and sort of even like with a little bit of hyperbole in it, like ma tovu ohalecha Yaakov, you all are so good. Micah says, actually, let's be in the posture of not yet. Let's say that this is still a work in progress, and we have something to reach for, which is that quality of goodness. He says, ma tov, what is good, but not to assume that we've reached the final destination of complete goodly or godly perfection. As Shai Held says, juxtaposed with Balaam's blessing, Micah's words serve as a powerful reminder that a deep sense of not yet ought to pervade our spiritual lives. We want to be in a place of exploration, of holy curiosity. Shai Held goes on to quote the Trappist monk Thomas Merton, who says, one cannot begin to face the real difficulties of life. He says the life of prayer and meditation, but I'm saying of life in general, unless one is perfectly content to be a beginner. and really experience oneself as one who knows little or nothing and has a desperate need to learn the bare rudiments. So encouraging us, no matter what our age, our chronological age, or our level of experience, to start as a beginner each time, to be searching, to be open, to be curious. And I'd like to now tie this back to the Torah text in the following way. The passage that comes out of Bilam's mouth, Ma tovu ohalecha Yaakov, mishkenotecha Yisrael. So ohalecha Yaakov, the tents of Jacob, mishkenotecha, the dwelling, holy dwelling places, the holy sanctuaries of Yisrael. We have Jacob and we have Yisrael. We have Jacob, who is the person before he encounters God, who is, let's say, not so perfect. And then we have Yisrael mentioned here, which is the same person in Genesis. Jacob becomes Yisrael, but only after his encounter with God, only after being wounded and emerging from that encounter with strength and with a greater sense, perhaps, of clarity. And so I want to put Micah on top of Numbers and say that if we read Numbers, Ma tovu ohalecha Yaakov, through the eyes of Micah, that's what we're seeing. In that blessing, Ma tovu ohalecha Yaakov, mishkenotecha Yisrael, is a journey that we're meant to make every time we say those words, to go ourselves from being Yaakov to being Yisrael. And the way to that journey is what I believe Shai Held and Thomas Merton and so many others in spiritual practice are telling us, which is the essence of Micah. Do justice, love mercy, and most importantly, to be modest in your claims about your beliefs. I'd like to go ahead to the Haftarah and ask you to please join me for whatever part of it you feel comfortable to chant along. I'll begin with the bracha and continue with the text. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar b'neviim tovim, v'ratza v'divrehem hane'emarim be'emet. Baruch atah Adonai, habocher b'Torah u'v'Moshe avdo, u'v'nevi'ei ha'emet v'tzedek. והיה שארית יעקב בקרב עמים רבים כטל מאת אדוני כרביבים עלי עשב אשר לא יקווה לאיש ולא יחל לבני אדם. והיה שארית יעקב בגויים בקרב עמים רבים כאריה בבהמות יער כפהיר בעדרי צאן אשר אם עבר ורמס וטרף ואין מציל. תרום ידך על צריך וכל אויביך יכרתו. והיה ביום ההוא נאום אדוני והכרעתי סוסיך מקרבך והעבדתי מרכבותיך והכרעתי ערי ארצך והרסתי כל מבצריך והכרעתי כשפים מידיך ומאוננים לא יהיו לך והכרעתי פסיליך ומצבותיך מקרבך, ולא תשתחווה עוד למעשה ידיך. ונטשתי אשריך מקרבך, והשמדתי עריך, ועשיתי באף ובבהמה נקם על הגויים אשר לא שמעו. שמעונה את אשר אדוני אומר, קום ריב את ההרים, ותשמענה הגבעות קולך. שמעו הרים את ריב אדוני, והאתנים מוסדי הארץ, כי ריב לאדוני עם עמו ועם ישראל יתווכח. עמי מה עשיתי לך ומה העליתיך, ענה בי, כי העליתיך מארץ מצרים ומבית עבדים פדיתיך, ואשלח לפניך את משה, אהרון ומרים. עמי זכרנה מה יעץ בלק מלך מואב, ומענה אותו בלעם בן בעור, מן השיטים עד הגלגל, למען דעת צדקות אדוני. במה אקדם אדוני, יקף לאלוהי מרום. האקדמנו מנו בעולות, בעגלים בני שנה. הירצה אדוני באלפי אלים, ברבבות נחלי שמן. האתן בכורי פשעי, פרי בטני חטאת נפשי. הגיד לך אדם מה טוב, ומה אדוני דורש ממך, כי אם עשות משפט ואהבת חסד, והצנע לכת עם אלוהיך. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, צור כל העולמים, צדיק בכל הדורות, הנאמן, האומר ועושה, המדבר ומקיים, שכל דבריו אמת וצדק. נאמן אתה הוא אדוני אלוהינו, ונאמנים דבריך, ודבר אחד מדבריך אחור לא ישוב ריקם, כי אל מלך נאמן ורחמן אתה. ברוך אתה אדוני האל הנאמן בכל דבריו. רחם על ציון כי היא בית חיינו, לעמך ישראל תושיע במהרה בימינו. ברוך אתה אדוני משמח ציון בבניה. שמחנו אדוני אלוהינו באליהו הנביא עבדך, במהרה יבוא ויגל ליבנו, והשיב לבבות על בנים ולב בנים על אבותם, וביתך בית תפילה יקרא לכל העמים. ברוך אתה אדוני מביא שלום לעד, על התורה ועל העבודה ועל הנביאים ועל יום השבת הזה שנתת לנו אדוני אלוהינו, לקדושה ולמנוחה, לכבוד ולתפארת. על הכל אדוני אלוהינו אנחנו מודים לך ומברכים אותך. יתברך שמך בפי כל חי, תמיד לעולם ועד, ברוך אתה אדוני, מקדש השבת. I feel that I've walked away from this Devar without making the one point that I wanted to make. So permit me just one last moment, which is to connect the dots here. I started out by asking us to notice that the Bilam is looking at Israel from a distance. And the point is that Micah is living in the community. He's the one saying, I'm here in the real thing, and I'm telling you, we're not there yet. That's the point. So thank you for permitting me that extra moment. I'd like to say the prayer for our country with you. It's back in our Siddur on page 418. Let's stand together. Allow these words to inspire our commitment to our role as citizens in this country, to put aside for at least this Shabbat our sense of, let's say, profound concern, and pour forth our prayer. Join me, please. Sovereign of the universe, mercifully receive our prayer for our land and its government. Let your blessing pour out on this land and on all officials of this country who are occupied in good faith with the public needs. Instruct them from your Torah's laws. Enable them to understand your principles of justice so that peace and tranquility, happiness and freedom might never turn away from our land. Please, wise one, God of the life breath of all flesh, waken your spirit within all inhabitants of our land and plant among the peoples of different nationalities and faiths who dwell here love and brotherhood. Uproot from their hearts all hatred and enmity, all jealousy and vying for supremacy. Fulfill the yearning of all the people of our country to speak proudly in its honor. Fulfill their desire to see it become a light to all nations. Therefore, may it be your will that our land should be a blessing to all inhabitants of the globe, cause to dwell among all peoples, friendship and freedom, and soon fulfill the vision of your prophet. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation. Let them learn no longer ways of war. And we say, Amen. And turn the page with me, please, to page 421. We may be so distracted with our, again, enormous concern for what's unfolding here in the United States. And yet there are more concerning, equally concerning things happening in the state of Israel, and we turn our attention there as well. Page 421, please join me. Sur Yisrael v'goalo. Barech na'at Medinat Yisrael, Reshit Smichat Geulatenu. Hagen aleha berov chasdecha, ufros aleha sukat shlomecha, shalach orcha ve'amitcha lerasheha, leshoftea ulenivcharea, v'taknem be'etzat tova milfanecha lema'an yelchu b'derech hatzedek, hachofesh ve'ayosher. Chazek yedei meginei eretz kodshenu, v'anechilem Yeshua v'chaim, v'natata shalom ba'aretz v'simchat olam leyoshvea, lechol yoshvea. Pekod na livracha et achenu beit Yisrael bechol artzot pezurehem. Ta belibam ahavat Zion, umi bahem mikol amenu yihi Elohav imo vaya'al. Ha'atzel meruchacha al kol yoshvei eretz kodshenu, haser mikirbam sin'a ve'eva, kin'a ve'rishut, v'ta belibam ahava ve'achva, shalom ve'reut. V'kayem bimhera chazon neviecha, lo yisa goy el goy cherev, ve'lo yilmedu od milchama, v'nomar amen. We can remain standing to call forward Shelley Sadowski and Bill Halpern to return the Sefer Torah. And can I hand this to one of you? Do you want to walk around again? I wasn't going to.
page 433 in our Siddur. יהללו את שם אדוני כי נשגב שמו לבדו. הודו על ארץ ושמיים וירם קרן לעמו. תהילה לכל חסידיו לבני ישראל עם קרובו. הללויה, הללויה. ובנבוכו יאמר שוב אדוני לבבות אלפי ישראל. כי לקח טוב נתתי לכם תורתי אל תעזוב. חיימי למחזיקים בה לתומכיה מאושר דרכיה דרכיה וכל נתיבותיה שלום. השיבנו אדוני אליך נשובה. קדש קדש ימינו קדש ימינו כקדם. Yasher koach. Thank you both. Thank you so much. We can be seated. It is so fun to welcome our young friends into the sanctuary. And Miss Ellie, can we ask you to come forward? You look like you have your guitar ready to go. I want to know if this, are there more stickers each time? No, it's sort of a finished work of art at this point? Okay, it's quite something. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Wanna come up here so everybody can see you and welcome you? Older members, let's greet them since they can't see our faces. Shabbat shalom. Welcome, welcome. Come on up.
Well, we have some movements,
All right.
so we have to be, some, Evan, Jonah, you want to come over here? We are going to do it over there. Oh, you guys could stay there, okay. Are we ready? So this is participatory. You're welcome to do it with us, but we do this every week, sometimes twice, because it's so much fun. Oh.
Here, I can move it. Do you want to be over here? Here.
All right, do you want to put your challah down so that you can? Never mind, you don't have to part with your challah. All right, you ready? Should we start with clapping? Let's clap, here we go. I'm gonna clap my hands, I'm gonna clap my hands. I'm clapping my hands, just like I should. Today is Shabbat and I feel good. Today is Shabbat and I feel good. All right, what else are we gonna do today? We were stomping in the puddles before. Should we stop? I'm gonna stomp my feet. I'm gonna stomp my feet. I'll stomp my feet. Stomp, stomp, stomp. And I'll clap my hands. Clap, clap, clap. Today is Shabbat and I feel good. Today is Shabbat and I feel good. All right, what are we doing now? What should we do? Oh, Rosie's going side to side. I'm gonna rock side to side. I'm gonna rock side to Shabbat and I feel good. Today is Shabbat and I feel good. All right, should we do the one we talked about before? The one where we do 3 things at once? What are we gonna do? Rosie, you wanna show it to us? The bonus, jump and clap and spin all at once. Yes, we can do hard things. Ready? I'm gonna jump, clap and spin. I'm gonna jump, clap and spin. I'm jump, clap and spin. Jump, clap, spin. And I'll rock side to side. Rock, rock, rock. I'll stomp my feet. Stomp, stomp, stomp. And I'll clap my hands. Clap, clap, clap. Today is Shabbat and I feel good. Today is Shabbat and I feel good. All right, we always end with this one. Who are you gonna hug? I'm gonna give a Shabbos hug. I'm gonna give a Shabbos hug. I'll give a hug. Hug, hug, hug. Look out, look out! And I'll jump, clap, and spin. Jump, clap, spin. And I'll stomp, or outside to side. Rock, rock, rock. And I'll stomp my feet. Stomp, stomp, stomp. And I'll clap my hands. Clap, clap, clap. Today is Shabbat and I feel good. Today is Shabbat and we feel good. Yay! Shabbat shalom, everyone.
Thank you so much, Miss Ellie, and all of our young leaders. Shabbat Shalom, and we're so happy to have you. We're actually going to sing a little bit more right now. If you want to stay with us, you are more than welcome. It's totally family friendly. This, or if you're ready to go, that's fine. Before we go to our closing verses, we wanted to just share a little bit of music again to just dwell with this beautiful poetry, this beautiful prophetic poetry from the prophet Micah. We have a song that we learned years ago from one of our music guests, Rabbi Noam Katz. The song is called Shir Mishpat, the song of lawfulness, if you wish. And it quotes this passage from Micah. I wanted to, bear with me just a second. I'd like to let people see this. So if you go back to your Chumash for a minute, and go to page 1071 in the new, or 1274 if you're in the older, 1071 in the newer, 1274 in the older. This last verse, and I don't have it transliterated, but let's just say these words together. This is the last part of verse 8, the last part of the last verse of Micah, and it says, Asot mishpat, say that with me, Asot mishpat, ve'ahavat chesed, V'hatzneah lechet, im Elohecha. Asot mishpat, do justice. Ve'ahavat chesed, love mercy. V'hatzneah lechet im Elohecha, walk humbly with your God. And we'll also have a little bit of the prophet Amos here and a little bit from Psalms, but this piece from Micah is center.
Asot mishpat ve'ahavat chesed v'hatzneah lechet im Elohecha. Asot mishpat ve'ahavat chesed v'hatzneah lechet im
עם אלוהיך, ויגל כמים משפט וצדקה, כנחל איתן. ויגל כמים משפט וצדקה, כנחל איתן. אשרי שומרי משפט, עושה צדקה, בכל עת, אשרי שומרי משפט, עושה צדקה, בכל עת, בכל עת. הסוד משפט, אהבת חסד, והצנעה לחן, עם אלוהיך. הסוד משפט, אהבת חסד, והצנעה לחן, עם אלוהיך. ויגל כמים משפט וצדקה, כנחל איתן. ויגל כמים משפט וצדקה, כנחל איתן. Do justice, love mercy, walk humbly with your God. Do justice, love mercy, walk humbly with your God. Do justice, love mercy, walk humbly with your God.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Beth and Jeff. Ah.
Go to our closing prayers to begin first with that moment to remember loved ones in our community who are now live only in our memory. Sending especially heartfelt condolences to Jody Lipson, who has just learned just this week of the death of her stepbrother, Jonathan David Lipson. I think that funeral arrangements are underway, and we'll hear more about opportunities for Shiva and for reaching out to Jody. And I'd like to acknowledge the names that I have in front of me, who people in our community who are observing your site, and then there's room for others if you're here this morning and haven't given us your loved one's name. Joan Spiritus' sister, Belle Altman, John Orsman's father, Mandel Orsman, Phyllis Lerner's mother, Sylvia Oringel Lerner, Judy Ackerman's nephew, Alex Fetterman, Carol Stern's grandfather, Jacob Spindell, Jane Handler's father, Sidney Handler, Carol Klinger's father, Jack Klinger, Rick Moser's sister, Lisa Moser, Bruce Kutnick's mother, Esther Kutnick, Marshall Mazer's mother, Eleanor Mazer, Carol Stern's mother, Lillian Spindell, Doug Fishman's sister, Andrea Fishman, Sharon Bray's grandfather, Harry Bray, Michael Laufer's grandmother, Fanny Freeman, Jerry Kickinson's mother, Gertrude Kickinson, Susan Malamud's grandmother, Eleanor Schlenk, David Saradsky's mother, Gloria Saradsky, Jennifer Sherman's father, William Frank, Lou Rhodes' mother, Ethel Rhodes, Carol Millman's husband, Carol Millman's beloved, Joseph Vallon, Hannah Weisberger's grandmother, Hannah Weisberger, Jonathan Epstein's sister, Rebecca Matveyev. And I would just ask if there are others here with us this morning who are remembering someone, if you'd like to stand and say their name. We'll ask for those who are in mourning or observing a yard site to please remain standing. And we'll turn together now to Kaddish Yatom in our prayer book, page 451. And those who are remembering someone, please say with me, Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, Be'alma divrach chirutei v'yamlich malchutei, B'chayechon u'b'yomechon u'b'chaye dechol Beit Yisrael, Ba'agala u'bizman kariv v'imru amen. Yehe shmei Rabbah mevorach le'alam u'lamei almaya, Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitale v'yithalal shemei dekudsha b'richu, le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, ta'amiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehe shlama Rabba min Shamaya, v'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, u'ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel v'imru amen. Zichronam livracha, those memories for blessing and insight, for ongoing appreciation. Let's turn back now to page 445 to stand together. Please join me. Thank you. Aleinu l'shabeach la'adon hakol, la'tet gedula le'otzer breshit, shenatan lanu torat emet, v'chaye olam nata betochenu, va'anachnu korim u'mishtacharim u'modim lifnei melech malchei hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Shehu not hashamayim ve'yoser haaretz, Moshav yikaro b'shamayim imav, U'shchinatu zo begovei meromim, Hu Eloheinu enod, Emet malkeinu efes ulato, kakatuv betorato, Ve'adata hayom v'hashivota el levavecha, Ki Adonai hu Elohim b'shamayim imav, ve'al haaretz mitachat ein od. 449 al ken nikaveh lecha, Adonai Eloheinu lirot mehera b'tiferet uzecha, ve'havir giluli min haaretz v'halilim karot yikaretun, letaken olam b'malchut Shaddai, v'chol v'nei basar yikru b'shmecha, להפנות אליך כל רישי הארץ, יכירו וידעו כל יושבי תבל, כי לך תכרע כל ברך, תשבע כל לשון. כי המלכות שלך היא לא מעט, תמלוך בכבוד, ככתוב בתורתך, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו Please be seated. I want to ask our wonderful president, Shana Wagger, there you are, if you come forward and join me in these closing greetings. It's wonderful to see everyone here this morning. I know it's summertime, it's kind of just us, which is lovely actually. And how many? And and a wonderful group of 20 on Zoom. We're happy to have you with us as well. And I want to just ask, I know we have two guests with us this morning. If you'd like to just stand, if you're comfortable to do so, and introduce yourself, we'd love to welcome you by name. Mhm. Wonderful. We're happy to have you. Is it Herb and Annie? Abby, excuse me, it's just hard to hear through the mask. Really great to have you with us. And just repeating your names for those that are on Zoom who may not be able to hear. Shabbat Shalom.
And I'll add a Shabbat Shalom, Chaverim, as well, to all of you and to those of you on Zoom. Wasn't that just a lovely lift to have Miss Ellie and all the tots come and sing to us? I know I spent part of the past week stomping my feet, rocking side to side. And so it was really lovely to see this in a different context. So it really was wonderful to have them here. The idea of do justice, love mercy, walk humbly with your God. Pair that with today is Shabbat and I feel good. What else do we need to know for now? So I just wish you all a wonderful Shabbat Shalom. And if there are 2 or 3 super friendly people who would like to help me offer Kiddush wine or Kiddush juice, I should say, and challah outside, I would love to meet you at the doors so we can greet everyone and provide the Kiddush outside for us. All right, Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Thank you. Shana. So if you'll join me to stand. Lulu, do you want to come up for this part? Want to come up? You don't have to. Okay. V'shameru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם. כי 6 ימים נשא אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ. וביום השביעי שבת וינפש. על כן ברך אדוני את יום השבת ויקדשהו סברי חבריי. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם בורא פרי הגפן.
Hamotzi lehem min haaretz. We give thanks for God for bread. Our voices rise and sang together as a prayer for bread. We say, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Hamotzi lehem min haaretz.
Wait, do you want to take a bite? Kol hakavod, kol hakavod. Oy, that was gorgeous. Thank you. Shabbat shalom, everyone. Lulu, that was just marvelous. I have to say, I really love the skirt you're wearing.
Shabbat Shalom, Zoomies.
Coming from gymnastics or ballet?
Shabbat Shalom.
What are you looking at? What are you doing? You're doing handstands?
Annabelle, we see you're online, but we don't see your face.
Yeah, but I have worked at it.
Oh, there you are.
Do you do it against the wall? Like, do you go over to the wall? So
Hello, everyone.
Hi. How's it going?
Okay. How are you guys?
you ran into the house.
Good. Vicky, are you still there?
Yeah, I'm here.
So how's Joel?
He's actually doing better. He had a little bit of
Not right now. 'cause you just have a quick-
difficulty after a bout of COVID. And so now he's drinking protein drinks, but getting better every day.
I'm so sorry. Does he know how he got it?
Probably on the airplane when we were coming back from Florida, because we were kept on the runway in the airplane with limited air circulation for an hour and a half.
Oh, man.